每当赛季进行到冲刺阶段，任何一场比赛的结果都显得至关重要。无论是早早钓鱼告别赛场，还是一路前进剑指世界赛，所有队伍的结局都可能因为一个小局胜负而改变。境况不佳，但他们对胜利的渴望却不输任何人。褪去青涩，天赋兑现后的目标是更大的舞台。只要相信奇迹，1%的概率也可能变成现实。几经出局，尊严和荣誉同样值得他们捍卫。再度重返巅峰，过去的遗憾将是他们最大的动力。一路走来跌跌撞撞，他们能最终达到外界预期吗？拒绝高开低走，命运的方向盘要由他们掌握。常规赛不是终点，他们渴望用加冕为这个赛季画上句号。唯有奖杯才能替自己证明，只有冠军才是赛场唯一的赢家。
The fight spices up, heading towards playoffs. Week 9 and the final day. The depth of power from WE has been shown so far, and I know I'm very breathy for someone who is only in Week 9, but that's because the LPL still does not have clear favorites, clear teams who are not set up for success. We take a close look at Post sitting on the couch there from WE, someone who with heightened performance has made this team look even better, and who will be getting that extra sponsorship medal at the end of the split. For WE, we thought they were out. It took them until week 4 to get their very first win here in the LPL summer, but they managed. They provided good expectations over EDG, and we got to this point where now KFC are happy with them, where they get extra food for being so good, Preacher, and where now they are serious playoff contenders. Will be showing us first up. Hello and welcome back to the LPL. My name's Jake Derek Sosipenko, joined by Mr. Jimmy Preacher Food, once again my Australian friend. Woo! From down under all the way over to Shanghai.
Of course, week 9 and it is crunch time,
yes,
because now we are nearing playoffs. It is just in the horizon and every series counts. We've got to take it game by game.
Yeah, what did I just say? Game by game's a great way to take it, because with WE starting off today, with standing so back and forth, and with one key series win from Rogue Warriors over JDG, the benchmark is not yet set.
That is it, bringing JDG down to number 9 in our standings. Now that opens up a pathway for WE, for Dominus, for the team themselves who beat them as well. And if you cast your mind at the bottom of the ladder, OMG unfortunately had their last chance and lost it yesterday, and now LGD today have their stance.
But hey, we're towards the end of week 9, and the fact that there's this many teams between 4th and 14th who are still in the race, who are still looking for their last chance in the case of LGD today, is incredible. And I want to cast your minds to a team like Rogue Warriors, who kept themselves in the race, but also to DMO, who are making the dream run as well at 5 and 7.
However, they are on a little bit of a deficit in terms of the game, so of course their streak must continue.
Of course, with WE and LGD starting off today, a must-win for LGD. But later on, IG and BLG, they're even at the moment. This is going to be a hype matchup.
7-4, 7-4, and everything is at stake. This could very well define who makes the cut and who doesn't, especially in terms of seeding, but that is the second series of today.
I mean, there's a lot of questions going towards IG, but even more whether BLG can make the run and get into playoffs this split. That's coming up later. I call it Hysterics match of the day because there's only 2 of them, and I had to pick one. That's my favorite series. But first, WE-LGD. Let's start. We're over in Xi'an for this one, Preacher. And for WE, there's a lot of hype towards this because their win over Invictus Gaming was one to behold.
I was about to say, their history is deep, and especially going against their age-old rivals, they definitely perform upwards. I mean, it was an uphill climb. However, now that they've done so, very nice roll down for the rest of the split.
It was that game 3 to speak of, where WE came together, where beishang had an incredible series, where Post was playing at his limit as well. And it looked like the WE that we saw enter playoffs in spring.
Individual mechanics really stood out inside of this series. You got to take note of the MVP, beishang. He wasn't just MVP of one game, he was MVP of the entire series. And of course, it was all in the back of his Olaf, which just got so propelled early
Game 2, go back and watch WE versus IG Game 2. Beishang's Olaf, as you mentioned, was incredible from the early game. And even Game 3, the Elise, the comeback, the bringer of power, we'll call him in that Game 3, because it was a good way to finish and cement off WE. A team that we counted out. It took 4 weeks for them in LPL to get their first win. And now we're at a point where they're even, they're 5-7. They can make the run, and it's looking easier now than ever.
And it looks like a match against the age-old rivals really kicked them into gear because they performed massively. You got to look back at that and also say beishang, he is very diverse in terms of his champions. Of course, he can carry on Olaf, but with that Elise as well. I mean, he defeated that Elise in that game, so he has a lot in his
I know there's going to be a lot of champion talk in this matchup, and we'll get to it in a quick second, Preacher. I want to talk about WE and their strength of schedule moving forward, because the way they're going to play it out. Look, Rogue Warriors V5. Very winnable matches, and if they can beat LGD here today, they will sit on 8 wins, which is a potential to qualify for playoffs. Yeah,
that's it. I was talking to Raz about it last time when we were watching IG, and we said IG is the last real hurdle. It was going to be a difficult one, and honestly, we didn't expect them to go over it, but now they're over the hump. We just said it's business as usual. Coming in against LGD, though, a team is never stronger than when their back's against a wall.
Yeah, look, LGD always have the potential to take at least a game or an unexpected series, right? WE have done that against IG, though, so coming into this series, a lot of expectations that will continue to run through the rest of the team.
Not just from us, but also from their fans, because they cheer it every single series, regardless of where it is, what it is. So, yeah, a lot is on stake for LGD.
Look, you're talking about LGD. Now, of course, this is the last stand for LGD. So, jokes aside, if LGD lose this matchup, their road to playoffs is less than like a 5% chance, if even that. So WE could be the last bump in their path.
Yeah, of course. So every single game from here on in could potentially be their last stand. Coming up against WE, it is a very tough opponent. I mean, not only did we just talk about the fact that WE came over IG in the previous series, but also the fact that they've got more games to come. It is going to be very difficult.
Well, let's reiterate for the audience just to understand. They're 2-8 right now. They've got 5 series left remaining, including this one. They will be able to finish on 7 as a maximum. That already for playoffs does not look like the right number unless you run into a head-to-head or a game differential that works in your favor. If LGD lose this, maximum will be 6. And then it's like, well, that is near impossible considering that LNG at the moment are the only team on 6. And as soon as they go up, LGD fall to the wayside.
That's it, yeah, and they're also sitting number 14 on the ladder right now. So coming up against number 10 in WE, it obviously does look like an uphill battle, and every single one is, of course, the difficult one for them.
And for LGD as well, if this is the last stand, it's going to rely on a roster that we haven't seen throughout the split. With the Condi debacle that happened earlier on in the split, we've now seen another roster change. Badiman has come into the jungle away from Quay, who we saw at one point. It's been so back and forth from LGD that now we're looking at an 11-man roster, and we're not sure which one works best.
And I'm going to say this person's still relatively new to the LPL, of course. Badiman, we haven't seen him too much in history. It's going to be a difficult matchup for him because, of course, he's going up against beishang, the MVP of the previous series. And yeah, everything is online. If he doesn't play something that he's comfortable on and he won't necessarily lose too early, that could be a real crux for LGD.
Of course, you got Garvey in the top lane as well, who Garvey we saw looked like a very good Akali, but just couldn't really transition with the team. You've still got Yuuki, Kramer, PYL is making his return today.
There you go. Yeah, a lot of people are lukewarm on PYL. I am hot on him. I still think that he's really great, and I think that both of these two supports are going to be key because, you know, usually when we talk about supports in the current meta, we say they like to roam, they like to influence other lanes as well. However, PYL and Missing are 2 players that just love to stick inside bottom lane. So instead of focusing around other places, expect other places to focus around there.
And both of them play so much Tahm Kench. So coming into this series,
TK Braum.
Yeah. Small side note, I know people out there are like, that's boring. I don't want to see Tahm Kench or Braum, but this is the champion that sits well, that they've been countlessly known for.
Look, I'm not going to say that it's boring, especially not when you put it on these 2 people.
Both play Thresh as well,
Very important key plays were actually instigated by Tahm Kench's ultimate going into the enemy jungle, cutting them off. I'm thinking about Missing's TK. So yeah, not necessarily defensive ones, not necessarily rotational ultimates either, but aggressive ones that secure kills. It's not a boring matchup.
And so while LGD, we talk about you know, the draft, what it's going to look like with different players, we can always come back to the fact that this has not been the core roster. This is not an experienced roster individually with Garvey, Badiman. Yeah, you've got the bottom side that have really been the strong suit. But when you look at WE, when you look at their strengths in the recent games with beishang and Post coming back into form, then it's fearsome. Then the top side of the match, I'm like, hey, I actually love the look of Post going into Garvey because I'm starting to favor Post.
And it's all mechanical outplays from that point onwards. That is real. That is really WE's success. And the fact that Post is going to have what we can consider a relatively good time up against the relative newcomer of Garvey as well.
Depends on the matchup. And that's when we can start talking about champions
That's
a little bit more,
yeah.
right? Because like I'm expecting to see something like the Renekton and Akali matchup, which I know a lot of people are back and forth on, but the Akali can really prevail and knock down the Renekton in cases. So it's exciting to see the potential of this top lane, especially since Garvey, you'll be looking towards 2020, and if he can land himself, you know, another position on LGD, or even work his way up, he's a mechanical genius, and I want to see more of the man.
It's all about development, so it's two sides of the same coin. On one unfortunate side is the lost side, where you say, LGD, it doesn't really look like it's going to be a good chance for them to come out on top of the WE, but on the good side, it looks like LGD have a very bright future in terms of their young success, so if they can keep at it, then it's a good strategy.
You would hope so. LGD, their last stand is about to begin against WE, a team that has been on a tear, that beat Invictus Gaming. WE in their home arena in Xi'an. To the stage they go. Post top lane, beishang jungle, xiye in the mid lane. And yes, we get Mystic and Missing in our first game. This is going to be a doozy.
Beautiful lineup all round. Watch for mechanical outplays. I'm going to keep my eyes on beishang just because of his amazing all-up plays.
I agree. beishang coming into this matchup, especially against Badiman. I want to see if he can run over yet another jungler as we go through the lineup once again. And with Doggy standing next to them, standing next to Missing, who's starting to grow his hair back like I am. This has been a roster that you can once again get behind and say, hey, it's another playoff dream.
I can get behind that haircut as well. I thought that you should have gone full buzz cut, but apparently you disagreed.
No, I didn't want to go full buzz. I like a bit of hair on top, Preacher. Let's go to LGD though, because like we said, it's going to be a very different roster today, considering it has been all over the place. An 11-man roster that people are questioning, what does final form LGD look like? And I don't even think we have an answer as they come back onto the stage. And Garvey leading them with Badiman there as well. We have ourselves Yuuki. Kramer's the tall one of the most handsome ones as well. And into the bottom lane, you once again go, all right, PYL, welcome back to Summoner's Rift.
The core of the team is still there. Yuuki and Kramer are going to be dishing out damage with PYL as well. The bottom lane is now empowered.
Once more, onto the Rift, dear friends, once more. And PYL, what did you say, Preacher? Semi-retirement?
Yeah.
It always feels like semi-retirement.
He always
PYL.
says that he's going to leave, but then he always comes back in a time of need.
does.
This is definitely a time of need if we could ever say one. I mean, the strategy for LGD for the longest time has actually been to train up their development, to give experience to their new players. However, bringing PYL back in just because they need the points, it could be a point of success.
I mean, point of success, you need something here. And I guess now that we're getting closer to getting into game one, we can talk a little bit about the styles and unique interactions, because I mentioned Post into Garvey and how the Akali versus Renekton would be that interesting 1v1, but especially with beishang, the Olaf was mentioned there. Badiman's been that Gragas, the Java, the more counteractive jungler that LGD have needed. And to stop beishang, that is such a big quest for this newbie jungler.
It is important for them, but going back to your original point and looking at the other newbie on the team as well, Garvey, this is going to be a really tough matchup. Now, you keep on harping on about the Renekton and the Akali, and yes, it is a very great matchup to see. However, Post has another signature under his sleeve, and of course, that is the Scion, 100% win rate of 6 games.
Preach. I don't want to see that Scion.
Oh, well, look.
Forget it. Throw it in the bin.
It's not something that you want to see, but it is something that brings them success. I mean, 100% win rate. You can't argue with the stats.
I mean,
there.
that's like saying, I can't wait to see Corki versus Azir. Throw that in the bin as well. If I see any Corki and Azir in this matchup, I will be upset.
Yeah, but you're going to eat your words if a Victor or even an Orianna came out. I mean, that was the NALCS, just the LCS now.
Hey.
Yeah, it happened just before. So,
Hey, I'm happy with that.
yeah, good returns.
But I will say, however, just being realistic, you know, Yuuki has played hell of a lot of Azir so far. And then you're like, okay, all right. What has xiye played? He's played a lot of Corki. So I'm really setting us up for failure here, Preacher.
No, you're not, because xiye also plays a lot of Qiyana. He has the most games of Qiyana inside the entire LPL. So if ever there were a point to keep an eye on the pick and ban phase, it should be against that champion that he's done relatively well with.
Yeah, that's right. We're about to get into pick and ban for this first game, however, and missing on your screen there. Curious to see what gets picked up here with Mystic, you know, back in form, back in action. It's not Jumeng starting game one this time WE, they realize the run for playoffs is there. And like we said, if they can beat LGD, then Rogue Warriors V5, that'll be an 8-series finish, which could put WE in that final spot of playoffs.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a question mark in the series against IG. I wasn't I wasn't absolutely terribly upset with Juming because he did have some good plays. He was just outplayed even more by the other side. But experience aside, especially into LGD, that we think is going to be an easy opponent for WE, they're pulling out all guns and they just want the wins.
That's all you need is, I believe we're going to hear from Mystic jumping back on Summoner's Rift against LGD.
준비한 거 놓고 그냥 저 할 거 하면 될 것 같아요.
A quick word from him and trying to show his stuff on Summoner's Rift, right, John?
Yeah, so he's just looking forward to seeing if he can actually go toe-to-toe with other ADCs. Of course, we talked about Kramer, a very historied ADC in LGD as well, so it's going to be a great matchup.
Kramer and PYL, you know, rather PYL on your screen. That is something that I didn't really explore, that the bottom lane 2v2 is potential to be explosive.
It's got to be more important than ever just because they stick around each other. Think about the Alistar for the engagers, think about Brom and TK just because they can both disengage, and of course
Right, let's hear from the man now, Kramer.
저희 팀한테도 이제 맞춰야 되니까 일단 저희 팀 스타일을 먼저 생각하고 이제 그 다음에 상대 바텀을 생각하는 스타일이어가지고 아직은 생각 못한 것 같아요.
Well, name change, new mentality. How's that? I actually don't mind the name Kramer.
Kramer?
Kramer.
What? It's one off Kramer, right?
Victor Kramer.
No. I'm not going Harry Potter with you.
Okay,
Jake, leave that. Leave that at the door, man.
No. It's okay.
There's going to be very little magic inside of this series. I expect full-on action.
Yeah, see, you know what? You took it. You went somewhere.
No.
It's a little bit late, but it's okay. The WE magic has ceased for now, at least. And quick thought on, you know, the 280 carries running into each other. And yes, excuse me, before, when I was talking about PYL and Kramer sitting next to him. This 2v2 in the bottom lane, that's going to be the shining light for LGD. Has in 2019, and I expect it to be another priority matchup coming into this series.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that we keep our eyes onto the bottom lane because the bottom lane has become much more passive in the early game, but much more influential as the game goes on. Of course, we've seen the rise of Ezreal come back in this patch just because the early turret play takers like Siva have fallen out of meta, fallen out of priority. So
well, you
both
say
these
that,
carries.
but of course, we still see a lot of Siva from people like Mystic, a lot of Siva from people like Kramer. They've played a ton of it in the league so far. While it hasn't really fallen out of meta, you're right, we've taken shape elsewhere with the likes of the Lucian on someone like Kramer, where he's looking to dominate that lane a little bit more and take over the matchup, which is why I set it up to be the potential explosion or the potential wayside.
And don't forget that both of these two ADCs also do have Kaiser in their wheel kit, so very late scaling champion who has a little impact in the early game, doesn't really contest to the turret plates as well. This is going to be one of the defining factors. So if we do see either of them go for that champion, expect the support to make all the difference. Combined between either defensive, like the Braum or TK, or the aggressive, like the Alistar or Nautilus.
It depends what Doggo wants to do here for WE, because I really like the draft going up against WE, the ability to lock down the jungle matchup, and essentially beishang in his games made Ning useless. And that was the thing we talked about where, for IG, yes, it kind of revolves around of how Ning is performing. Is he playing to his limit, or is he falling by the wayside? That's how IG are going to look. And in this game, it's kind of similar with beishang. When beishang wasn't performing, when Post was also falling down, WE looked bad. But beishang in his past couple of series been rising to the top. We've been seeing Spring 2019 beishang, and that's what we want to see coming into the series against LGD.
He is so aggressive, but in an intelligent way. The way that he defeated Ning was because he had level advantage and he knew to take a level 6 Olaf into a level 5 Elise. Let's see what he takes this time.
Buddyman looking like the underdog here in this series. Let's go into game one, ladies and gentlemen. Remember that Talia, Jace, and Mordekaiser are all banned away. Talia and Jace only for today until it gets fixed for tomorrow. So 3 big bans that cannot be picked up here on Summoner's Rift.
Global bans, so unfortunately we won't see them. And also, more importantly, we also see that the Silas is taken away. Now that is actually very important because on this patch, it has been quite influential in other regions as well. It was one of the biggest flexes, now no longer available.
Well, you're speaking to beishang, of course, who's played around with it in the jungle quite a lot so far. The Olaf already taken away from beishang. Remember, he likes the Elise. Sejuani are some of the other priority picks. And you've been jungle banning so far, LGD. It looks like that is going to be the pace they take.
It's also a good time for Bademan to really make an identity for himself, because there are two types of junglers, either the ones where you get a resource and carry, or the ones where you facilitate. Sejuani is a great pickup and it's very safe.
I also like taking away Tahm Kench from PYL, his namesake, the champion, who just constantly, I think of PYL and I go, look, there's a lot, but Tahm Kench has just always been his go-to, and now up against the Brom here in the first game.
No surprise, they want to keep their ADC safe. This does indicate that they want to go for later scaling ones like the Kaiser and Ezreal, so it won't be too much of a surprise because they're not very high priority in the first rotation.
So the Sejuani that we're talking about before that's going to be coming in here for WE. And remember that for WE, a safe composition around beishang is always great, but you love those invades, you love the aggression. What's he going to sit on?
Look, Sejuani is the most safe one, just because she has so much facilitating pressure in terms of setting up her top lane and also her bottom lane, especially with the TK who can slow people down with the tongue lash is going to be a great synergy. We just have to check out to see what they want to do specifically. We highlighted that Post was going to have a really good time into Gavi, but he needs a good matchup in that case.
Now, if you're talking synergy, remember Sejuani loves champions like Aurelia, the melee champions that can stack up. We've seen a lot of the Kled into the mid lane, or at least into the composition. WE have decided on the Corki once again. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Yuuki plays a lot of Azir. Let's see what direction this goes.
That is important. And one thing that's at the front of my mind is the fact that Aatrox has actually escaped ban and pick phase so far. So if he's not banned away in the second rotation, that could prove something very interesting.
Huge takeaway. We didn't know what was going into the other solo lane for WE, and Aurelia was open. So LGD snagging that one through to decide on what lane.
It's also very important to know that that Corki isn't necessarily guaranteed to be in mid position. Raz was talking about it a lot, how it can be flexed into top side as well, depending on the matchup. If Post really wants that, then he can, but it is more famously seen in mid lane.
I mean, in the LEC over the weekend, we saw it in the bottom lane one game, so it doesn't mean that we have to really confine it to the top side of the map, but a rarity to be expected here in the LPL is going into that second ban phase. Let's talk about AD carry, says LGD. The Varus going to be the first band away from Mystic, and Gavi going to lose his Akali.
Doesn't want the long range, doesn't also want the contest. So already looking over at LGD, they're trying to draft something that doesn't necessarily have a lot of priority over objectives early, rather they just want to win lane and then win game.
And remember, the poke lane from Varus Tahm Kench has always been a threat in the LPL, and something that Mystic and Missing have played before, so I like the denial of ban. Renekton there too, which Post will always sit on.
It's also more important because TK facilitates ADCs who don't have dashes, so taking away Varus, another good one is of course a Sivir who can't get away before level 6.
Also with the Tongue Lash as well, remembering that the Spell Shield's going to come in handy, so Kramer locks in his 9th game of Sivir as an AD carry.
Oh, this could be interesting. I just saw the hover of the Jinx. It is a Mystic special, only he really plays it within the LPL, and it'll be a pretty decent matchup into Sivir, who, until she gets to that 5-item mark, Jinx can always bully in a straight 1v1.
2 games in the LPL, 100% win rate, but he's also played the Caitlyn here as well. Actually, I take that back. Hasn't picked up the Caitlyn yet this split. So this is like champion number 13 for Mystic.
However, cast your mind back to Spring. That was the champion that he was really known for, especially at the end of the split. He was abusing JDG before the playoffs actually came on, where the Caitlyn just took down the bottom lane turret, rotated top, got those turret plates as well. So immediately we've got to watch out for how fast they push bottom lane, and that's going to once again come back to the question of where is the jungler going to be put, because one of the key things that you need in a pushing bot lane is the safety to do so.
Okay, well, you got the Caitlyn Tahm. This is Mystic's 13th champion. I'll confirm that for you now. Of course, against the Corki, a response has been the Tristana in the mid lane, and this is going to be the debut here for Yuuki, meaning Gavi will be the Aurelia topside into the GP.
Listen to Caps. He loves this matchup. The Tristana into the Corki. It is a very good counter just because if you can get the satchel charges down, immediately jump onto his head. Immediately when you take a look at LGD, they just want to win lane and then win game. They've got 3 really great matchups. The one that's going to be particularly difficult is going to be the Sivir, but it's safe in the sense that you'll always have your spell shield for the Caitlyn trap, so you're never going to be stuck in a bad position.
I mean, you got the safety of Brom there alongside you as well. Double AD carry comp. There is a lot of AD damage here, relying on Bademan to facilitate the void.
More importantly, this looks really great from LGD just because they can shut down the early game power of WE's draft. Sivir can always wave clear with her Q and W, which means that Caitlyn's going to have a hard time busting down those turret plates.
But if we're talking late game, remember, there's still the Tristana, double AD carry with Sivir, Aurelia there. A lot of good scaling elements, and I love the team fighting, the space that can be played with here from LGD. Coming into the do-or-die matchup, this is important. Innovative drafts that can challenge WE and pull them down in these lanes.
And WE really need to execute great down onto the bottom side, because if they can't get that first turret down before 14 minutes, then all of their early game bridging tools are going to fall to the wayside. Into a Siva, it's going to be hard because of the wave clear, but they need to devote resources down there to make it work.
And I know you were talking about the 80 carry matchup. I think the audience excited for Mystic taking on Kramer. I am too, but in towards those late game fights. I want to see the mid lane matchup. I want to see if xiye can survive the Tristana mid, because so far in the LPL, Tristana is without a win after 2 games. And Yuuki's got a lot to prove taking it up against him.
You say you like to watch for the late game hysterics, but that is if xiye can make it there. He needs to get past Yuuki, and that is a very difficult laning phase.
The level 2 all-in, that's what I want to see. Thank you for leading me towards that, Preacher, as we lead you towards WE versus LGD. LGD and Xian in the away stadium will have their last stand as WE are heading towards playoffs with so much momentum. There it is. If we can't chant LGD, we'll go to TSM.
That's it. I was actually wondering, because LGD chants are so prevalent in the LPL, why was it so delayed to come out with? But of course, TSM chants on the back.
But you know what? Normally that's just it. It's 2 chants when LGD play. They let it go by the wayside. And that one audience member's like, there's got to be something. There's got to be something else. So, playing with the ingenuity. I like the ingenuity in the comp of LGD though. Let's have a quick look, because this is a game where Yuuki has the chance to pop off, really control the mid lane and keep WE down.
And I quite like the rune choice coming out from Bademount as well. This is going to be very early impact. But
like this.
Wait, level 1.
Taking rocket jump first, I love it. Press the attack, shares at half health.
Yuuki legit doesn't care. He just wants to get 3 autos down to get the MR shred, use W. It's a great early game trade, and just watch for the corrupting pops as well, because this is the focus point for Yuuki. If he can force xiye back without good backs, then that could actually be really bad.
But also remember that the sustain comes in here from xiye. The fleet footwork, the extra health that's going to be provided means that xiye can stay in this lane a little bit longer and survive the all-in that Yuuki now takes with the rocket jump. The exhaust burned early. Reason he took this in the lane, but that's a level 1 summoner burn.
Yeah, and he's still level 1 compared to the level 2, so Yuki's cooldowns are already ticking, and you got to watch out. Yuuki has an ignite as well. If she can get really good timers down onto xiye, that could just be 100-0.
Really sets up the reason why I said focus on the mid lane, because if xiye is able to come out, if he's able to hit that 2-item Corki spike, then Yuuki then maybe not as relevant. We get to the point where WE set up for these fights that we said they could take, and also set up for those side lanes.
Yeah, so just checking in with WE's composition. Obviously, one place they want to go is towards the mid game. You've got Corki's package that can always facilitate, but the early game bridge to get them there is still going to be Mystic completely destroying that turret down onto the bottom side. So they need to commit resources both from xiye and also beishang to make that work. But I know that I've said this multiple times already, Hysterics. It's still a thorn that's sticking out for them. Kramer is looking to deny that.
Yeah, he is. In the lane, getting pushed back early as Badema now roaming towards the top side. Gangplank exposed, but beishang is nearby. The 2 junglers will meet for a quick second. The all-in available here from the Gragas.
It's also great that we see the Tristana as the last pickup for LGD, because without it, there was going to be a ticking time bomb of the GP on the other side. Now with the late game carry on LGD, they've evened the score in terms of if you want to keep it until late game for WE, that is, LGD can also match up in kind.
Remember that as well for Garvey. You know, hitting towards the 6, there's a lot of kill threat in that top lane, but for the GP, the barrage makes it so that bottom lane is so potent. That's something we didn't really get to talk about, as again, we're not going to get a chance because Yuuki will not stop on top of xiye.
So one of the things that I like about Tristana playing a bit of her in solo queue is the fact that her mana costs are actually ridiculously low. So there's never realistically a point when Tristana goes boom inside of a lane, and that's going to be one of the highlights for Yuuki. As soon as it's off cooldown, jump in, trade. Xiye now doesn't have any more corrupting stacks. That's going to be punishing.
Especially since this matchup relies so much on the explosive charge trades, right? Getting the E down on the Corki, getting at least 1 or 2 auto attacks off, and pushing him further out. As with no corrupting potions, as you mentioned, now at a 10 CS deficit, Yuuki has the slow shove in, eventually resets it. Xiye's going to try and pick up this wave, but with the range that gets added, LGD through a winning lane mid and a potential setup in the top lane with a great Vanguards, or rather lockdown with the flawless duet, the body slam flashed away, but instant flash from Garvey. That's why I wanted to see this top laner in action.
Doesn't even need Predator's hysterics. Comes in before his first back. First back is actually not that significant for beishang, but still manages to force a flash. An excellent read coming out from Garvey. That was max range auto attacks that you don't really think about on a melee champion. Great play from this rookie.
Man, beishang going to the top side is just so good now for LGD. The Aurelia picking up first blood as well. And the GP, when there's two Trinity Force users in the top lane, one's going to get there quicker, and Garvey even finding posts here. The Force Duet lands again. He gets a reset. He pops himself into Conquerors, remember. This is the Aurelia that wants to stay in the fight. Post is stuck around. It's greedy. It's bad.
My God.
Garvey with a solo kill eruption.
I do not believe it. Of course, Aurelia has a great early game laning phase into a Gangplank, but I didn't think that he could just 100-0 the Gangplank. Now without flashes on either side, knows the numbers like the back of his hand.
I mean, realistically, post to play with space. The Gangplank lane's not too bad as PYL flashing on top of Mystic. What was this? He steps on a trap, he dies. Kramer into him though, should be able to find this one as a trade, and LGD just want to go.
Already from minute one, hysterics, the action doesn't stop. Mystic now being taken down, although takes PYL on the backside as well. Pretty much just a free teleport back to base. Still gets the BF sword, which is the most important thing for a Caitlyn ADC. So it's got to be a relatively safe laning phase for us still, just because of that power spike.
I mean, you look at these lanes, LGD are propelling them forward, and this was the first blood that amounted in a second one for Garvey.
The very first one, Garvey's always chipping down. Watch for beishang, forces the flash. However, the flash from Garvey to know the perfect attack range as well. Now we get to check in with the bottom.
This was kind of sick from PYL. You don't expect this either.
Yeah, he steps on the trap actually, which empowers the last auto attack. Of course, condemned to death. Still puts up a very good fight. And like I said, Mystic isn't in the worst of positions just because he gets to back with a BF sword this time.
I mean, this early game, I'd take it here from LGD. You've got a 2-0 Aurelia in the top side. Tristana was naturally going to win this lane anyway and has now hit level 6. The bottom side, Siva, who was behind in CS, who was frankly going to be continuing losing this matchup, is in a better position. So LGD have really set this one up well, and they've net themselves an Infernal Dragon because of it.
Yeah, and now they just get absolute vision priority for themselves over the bottom side of the map. LGD are absolutely dominant inside of this game.
Well, it depends. Let's go with the Dragon. Thank you so much. And now I agree with you. Missing's actually walking up here as well, and they're being careful around the Dragon as Xie's walking in.
No package.
And Kramer pathing around, he's going to get spotted. They're very low health bars, they'll secure the Infernal, but onto Xie, the body bump comes through. The Brom is already dead from LGD. This was a Dragon that they'll regret. 2 kills for WE, and that was just sloppy.
LGD committed a lot to that Drake, but they didn't have the DPS to burst it down, especially with WE always watching on. They had vision from the get-go. Post commits his ultimate
we're just
as well.
doing this again.
Not again.
And because it's Conqueror Aurelia, it's just so annoying. We've seen a lot of press the attack, but I've always preferenced Conqueror just because of the sustain it gives, and in this matchup, how much damage it actually does.
And realistically, it's so easy to proc, but this is the important Drake that we're watching out for. Not a lot of DPS from LGD allows xiye to actually come in. Watch for PYL's health bar. Pretty much no support just because he was so low. And even then, everything else is just locked down. Great ultimate. Point blank.
Really good from beishang. Puts WE right back in this game, and now with a bit of a gold lead. In a game that was falling out of favor, in a game where the Corki was getting so far pushed behind. xiye was able to get a couple assists in that play and push out the wave, meaning that now the mid lane is quelled.
Kill distribution is also important. So while it does look like 3-3, we got to keep track of which champions have it. It's going to be onto the Caitlyn primarily on the bottom side, which works very well into WE's favor. But over on the top side, Garvey is making a name for himself in this game against Post, denying him so heavily. Xie's looking to even up.
And that's why this play is so important, because Xiye moving to the top side to stop Garvey, who you mentioned has a 20 CS lead here, who is going to get pretty close to the Trinity Force after his next back. So it's good news here from the top laner of LGD, but still with package in hand. Xiye can also look to influence the bottom lane, remembering that the Caitlyn has the same lead down there at 2-1.
And more importantly, when you take a look at the timer, only 1 minute left until Rift Herald respawns. The fact that you have priority on the top side of your map allows LGD to get pressure down there for themselves. And a Rift Herald this early on is monumental, even if you just deny it away from WE.
That wave sucks there for the top lane Gangplank. But we're going to look back as beishang is in position once again, and Mystic too far forward. POL maybe low, but the Devour there from Mystic. He's cornered out. Mystic turns onto the Brom. He just needs one. He heals up, he autos, he doesn't die. Into the corner, the Glacial Prison turns it around, but the 80 carry's already dead. Bartyman, we're going to be locked down. Healed back up, still alive. beishang gets the Winter's Flail. Now looking for the next one. This is good for WE. xiye has joined the fight, and the Tristana's nowhere to be found.
WE rotate faster than LGD. LGD even wanted the fight on the bottom side of the map. As soon as xiye goes missing, you should be pinging that. You should be telling your team to back out. But once again, LGD take too much time and they lose out for it.
Oh no, and he's got 2 kills with him as well, Preacher. And for LGD, what a great start it was that has now turned all the way back around. I don't mind the Gangplank taking that much of a loss on the top side. If your Corki is now close to that Trinity Force, if the Caitlyn to the bottom side still has such a gigantic lead.
Yeah, but this is really the play that we're watching out for. Keep your eyes onto Bartyman. Of course, beishang is around the bottom side as well. And this is the point at which Corki starts to move down bot. So you already know that you should be disengaging. You take way too much time to actually get the kill down in the first place. And now, with that Gragas being stuck into position, can't even dodge out the Sejuani, and they lose way too much.
And Mystic just took so much time away from LGD. It took so long to kill the 80 carry of WE, and that ended up being the result, where now the Corki picking up the 2 kills, the Sheen off that first back as well. Second, excuse me. Kramer and PYL have opted to go towards the top side with Rift Herald now spawned.
Yeah, and now beishang is trying to keep priority, but wow.
Garvey wants to take a 1v2. The Vanguard Edge comes out. I think he can do it. But Tongue Lash down. Great stun, great trap. Missing MVP.
That was it. Garvey wanted to go in, but unfortunately dashed onto a trap. Didn't even walk over it, so it was Mystic setting up with all of those minions dying. You could say that he knew Irelia better than Garvey in that particular instance.
I mean, you look at that. That was so damn close. I'd give that to Garvey if Missing didn't play it so well, but we've got more fighting towards the top side here as Bartyman meets with beishang. A level advantage on the Sejuani. He can do crazy stuff like that.
So my point was, it was actually a good play initially for LGD because you know that you want Tristana to be busting down the mid turret while Corki is away with package. However, the fact that they didn't disengage from it meant that it was miscommunication and also mis-execution. Those are the things that LGD will pay for if they don't fix it up.
Well, LGD towards the top side right now, trying to fix up some of their mistakes. Acing the hole onto Garvey. He flashes away. It connects, of course. The Gangplank ult's there as well. Missing is hungry. Needs one more Tongue Lash, but devoured up. The flail to come through and Missing to pick up the kill. The commitment for Garvey, knowing they're trading for the top side, is there.
And unfortunately, LGD's lane priorities are not working out for them. Putting a fed Irelia into a fed Caitlyn generally doesn't go too well, and even on the bottom side.
Well, let's find out if they get the Rift Herald, because there's a lot of plating that's gone over to the underfed Sivir. And WE, no LGD, were doing the Rift Herald. So that's the play here. LGD want to break this turret, get some of the gold back in their pockets.
Of course, they just want to trade over resources. It's taking it away from Garvey, but putting it onto Kramer. You have to ask the question, is it worth it? Of course, Kramer does have the history behind him of carrying.
Of course he does. But I was going to say, they just lost first turret anyway. Yeah. Mystic picked it up on the bottom side. The Caitlyn still 30 CS ahead with a Infinity Edge first. So damn accelerated with a Zeal to back her up. It's a great start that's been mitigated from the WE side.
Well, the most important thing that's mitigated from this build is the fact that Caitlyn doesn't look like she's going to have a mid-game trough. She is looking in fine form, and also the fact that they're rotating her into the mid lane. If Tristana doesn't heavily push this wave out from this point onwards, Mystic is going to be in a really great position for mid-game teamfights.
That was perfect. Bartyman left the rest of the Krugs, turned away, pressed B, pressed the trigger on his controller, and they blew up. Like, cool guys don't look at Krug explosions, right? I just love that. What well timed. He gets a mini MVP for that one, as Kramer might actually get a little bit less, waiting for the spell shield here, but takes so much damage in the process. They just turn over to PYL, who's caught out, the package used down, and 4 members of WE claps down. Kramer then pops on the hunt, but the hunt has been set by WE.
Ultimately, patience works out for xiye. Didn't use the package before, but now actually cuts off the retreat from PYL. That is a disadvantage.
That's the 4th death for PYL, and this time it was so damn important with turret plating up for another 30 seconds. WE are taking it all.
PYL's playstyle is so damn aggressive, but in this game, it is not working for him. He keeps on going forward without any backup there in time. It is en route, and he dies before they ultimately reach him. He should be a little bit more careful, but that is not his playstyle.
And I mean, it leads to this. The Rift Herald getting taken. Yuuki is aware of it, but he can't rocket jump in. beishang picks it up, and Turret plating now going to go down, but WE have just taken so much. They've got a 3k gold lead at 14 minutes.
Yeah, and even though that does go over, the more important thing to check out is where Mystic stands, because one of WE's bridging tools to get into the mid game was Mystic busting down turret plates. Already very effectively done for himself, so I'd say that that's reach, and WE are looking for fights.
I mean, we talked about the Infinity Edge before. He's got 826 gold from turret plating, and sure, Kramer caught up, but WE took the most. LGD right now, consolation prize is the Ocean Dragon with a cloud coming up, so they don't get the best of it. And they're moving into a mid-game where you have a hyper-accelerated Corki, you have a Gangplank who's not suffering that much anymore, and a Caitlyn who's going to have 2 items by that next back.
So whenever you see the Sivir, you always ask the question, what exactly is she trying to prevent for the late game? However, beishang is watching top. Yuuki doesn't quite know that he's there, but going back to the question, whenever you see a Sivir, it's always, which late game are you playing towards? Of course, Yuuki can scale towards a maximum build. Garvey also does relatively fine, but mid-game is really where that Irelia spikes. So you got to take a look at Kramer and say, when are you going to pull the trigger? Mid-game looks like the best time for them to do so.
I mean, if we look at the composition once again for LGD, I mean, look, there's still great scaling, right? Double AD carry is great for one thing, and the ability to push down these turrets are fantastic. Yuuki sitting in a side lane too, with Blade of the Ruined King. Garvey doing the same. So LGD right now trying to mitigate some of those losses that they received after being so hyperactive and just get towards those 2 items so that we see a bit more of an even fight.
Speaking about even fights, so the next major one should be over the Drake that's going to come up, but that is a while away. So once again, wave clear duty for ADCs and also warding duty for support. So far, we haven't seen any major wards come out from either of these two. No aggressive ones either. The most forward one is, of course, that control ward down at the bottom side, which will prevent a little bit of engrossment onto the Dragon, but they still need a little bit more. They want total control.
It's widely contested in the river, and right now, WE's not overextending. Mystic will clear out a wave alongside Missing, push it forward, wait, and rinse and repeat. Right now, the Caitlyn now with rapid fire cannon in hand is uncontested with the Time Kench by her side. So WE can put beishang towards the top end, help Corki push with Rift Herald now used, and LGD, frankly, slow to this play.
They don't know that it's happening topside, so this is definitely going to go over to WE.
They do. They're just going to sit in the mid lane and look for Mystic instead, who just bops into Batman.
That was ridiculous. That was one auto attack headshot with the rapid fire cannon.
Oh no, save him! Yeah, look, PYL. 2 versus 3, WE still win.
That's it. And that was just Batman stepping a little bit too forward, not knowing the range on the rapid fire cannon. Now around the red.
WE have taken full control on top side. They send out the Glacier Prison as well, taking the red buff. Here comes Cannon Barrage as WE walk into the rush and LGD scathed walk out.
Disengage throughout that entire event. You even have to use the cask just to make sure the WE move backwards. So a lot of key ultimates actually traded over. It's the Sejuani ultimate and also the Gangplank ultimate for just the GP one.
I mean, they need a pick right now. LGD can't fight and they're getting caught out. Garvey here in the brush. The Arctic Assault used. The Permafrost follow-up. Licky Tongue comes through here as well. The man, the myth, the legend. Mystic has joined the fray. Does he need to flash? No. The 90 caliber net. Auto 1, 2, and 3. Thank you so much. WE continue to take it all.
And if there is a replay, I want to see who on WE actually hit the blast plant, because that was an excellent play to actually move Irelia back to the other side.
And look at this.
Very well played.
I mean, LGD can't move to the play. WE get the kill, move bot side. And LGD looks like they're asleep at the wheel, just being out-rotated constantly by WE.
Well, you say that, but also WE have the innate advantage of always sieging. Caitlyn, an amazing sieger, and Gangplank moves people off the turret with his barrels as well, so it's difficult for LGD to even defend, but you are correct in the sense that LGD are a little bit too slow. Checking in with the turrets, though, it is 3-1, and they are just stacking it up even further.
I mean, the Tristana and Sivir sat in the same lane looking for the counter-engage. Didn't get too much. Blue buff now stolen alongside the red buff. beishang has it all, a 30 CS lead, a level lead, or half, excuse me, over Bariman. And at this point I was like, hey, how can Garvey carry this game? How can Garvey win this out? Because the Tristana Corki didn't work out too well, Preacher. Kramer down the bottom lane was constantly neglected and is in no way going to be in a position until maybe 35 minutes in the game. it looks, you look at the Aurelia, you're like, okay, Garvey, it's up to you.
That's it. However, resources haven't been committed towards him. So when we talk about Garvey, let's take a look at his history. Got a kill in the top lane and then a solo kill for his own name. However, then rotated down to the bottom side because LGD wanted to trade effectively his laning phase for Kramer's.
Oh no, but this is what I mean. He's getting caught out constantly, and this is not an exception. Walking towards the minion. 3 members are here, floors to it, but there comes the package once again. xiye gives Mystic the kill, 5, 2, and 4.
There's no turret there. Why would you even move out so far? Yeah,
I mean,
it's
look again.
punishing.
Look again, Preach. LGD asleep at the wheel. They're sitting in the mid lane trying to defend against the Sejuani, while WE is sieging 3 bot.
And they also rotate Yuuki to the top side.
Stop
Tristana
it.
is one of the best champions here.
Make
What are you
it
doing?
stop! LGD walked here, base. You're losing an inhibitor at 19 minutes in the game.
You hate to see it, Hysterics. You absolutely hate to see it. And also, Yuuki being on the top side, he will get a consolation turret for himself, but even then, it is definitely not worth an inhibitor. Not this early on in the game, especially down the bottom side, now that WE can get total priority over the Baron that's spawned.
I understand the deficit here. I understand LGD trying to get small wins where they can, but at this point, it's not going to be enough. Yuuki picking up the solo gold from the turret. They want him on his second item, but what's going to happen before then as we look at what happened to Garvey?
Yep, cut him off from retreating. There are no minions for him to dash forward to, and 3 people against 1 is what you expect to see, Hysterics. Now that the Baron is up, that should be a huge priority for WE. We've got to check in with their win condition. It was propelling their team forward with Mystic. Check on that. 5-2-4 Caitlyn. Now they are ready to take over the game.
Double Zeal item on Mystic now as well. The Corki close to Infinity Edge. Post picked up his Trinity Force a little while ago and is heading towards his second item. So around these objectives, look at the space that can be created with WE as well. With xiye, with Post, their ability to find counteractive angles over to the side of LGD.
And also the protection coming forward from WE
That's
is
true.
honestly scary when you think about it, because Missing can save any one of his teammates who gets caught out. Beishang can also stop the interference along the Baron. The only person who has a bit of an awkward position doing so is Post, but his ultimate is always good no matter what stage of the game you're looking at.
I mean, you know, if you see a bad gangplank ult though, you will notice. So,
Of course.
to that end, around Baron, of course, the ability to utilize it as WE have one more outer turret remaining, and this one taken with ease. LGD still do not want to fight.
No, LGD, they can't even wave clear at this point, and Mystic with the long range on the rapid fire cannon is busting down Kramer longer than his Q's range.
Yeah, look, they get the turret, they push them up, they do a bit of damage. Look, Mystic still here, he
Oh,
finds
boy.
Kramer on the height.
Man.
That is the ultimate chicken ult I've ever seen.
And it was late as well. There was nothing that was following up.
Oh,
Still
he
wanted
thought,
to get
he
out.
thought something was coming, so I give
man.
him that. But at this point, look, for LGD, it is the responses against WE right now that they're trying to keep themselves in the game. The Cannon Barrage comes through, the Glacial Prison underneath turret, they don't care. Good ultimate there from the Brom too. POL gets out on the Slither as WE, no minion wave. They're going to still keep pushing in.
No minions, no care, because LGD members are backing. Yuki's not going to be there, Kramer's not going to be there. Their wave clear is absent, and Mystic is clearing waves.
He just doesn't stop. 239 is the CS count, and while Kramer has a good score himself, nice steal from Bariman. He's keeping up. Mid lane push. Vision cleared. WE, this is the team that we set up to say their playoff run has begun, and LGD is a team that they must defeat.
And it's very easy to take a look at the score and say 2-4 Irelia and also 0-2 Gragas. This isn't looking too well for the rookies of the team. However, it is not their fault. It is the lane assignments that the entire team agreed upon. They wanted to get a lot of resources onto Kramer. In that end, they did succeed. But now that Garvey has lost so much of his oomph, especially after his solo kill against Post, it is not what you want to see now that it is a mid-game.
Post made such a mistake early on, and you're right. It was a game that was set up for the Aurelia in the top side after having such a gigantic lead. Still has a CS lead, but the gold that WE have acquired through the team has made up for that. And Post can sit wherever he likes. Gangplank ult not available, but the barrel's here to set up as they want to keep sieging the inner turret.
Forever clearing, and even if they get no extra damage down onto this turret, it benefits WE, because on the backside, beishang is clearing out wards. There is no vision for LGD anywhere on the top side of their jungle, and that is going to punish them, because sooner or later that Baron is going to be called, and bot lane with the super minions are going to demand one member.
All waves are going to be crashing in. Top side getting set up here from beishang while WE wait for their next mid lane wave. LGD getting harassed from all sides, and WE can move to the top side. They can leave the jungler here right now. It doesn't look like it matters as every single member doing their part.
The one time that you'd actually like to see a jungler split push, of course, the Sejuani is shoving very hard into the turret. Now with the Corki, yeah, this is definitely getting very
Yuuki
difficult.
just got his second item. He thought hope here for LGD, but they have none. WE are clinical here, and 7,000 gold now with that inner turret going down.
Yeah, however, Garvey is really the person who you need to keep your eyes on, and at this point, there is no way that he can actually engage.
I mean, we've seen one ult.
Yeah, the best case scenario is for Bademan to use his ultimate, separate one member, but even that's very difficult.
Yeah, how do you find a pick here? Like that, the flash into missing, but the ult only finds one as Buddyman cornered out on the side. There's a good ult in response as Vanguard's edge from Garvey. It's the flank here from LGD. He gets a 4-man falls to it, but the damage, the follow-up is not there.
Oh!
Yuuki needs to get it, and he finds it with the ult, but Mystic wants to take on the world. Jump Reset City and LGD have given their mid laner a triple kill. WE lose the fight, and LGD might find something off the back of this.
What a response. All 5 members are there for LGD. They pulled the trigger. It wasn't the greatest ultimate from Bademan, but it was enough to disrupt WE. And from that point, Garvey, with his ultimate hitting 4 members of WE, danced onto everybody.
I mean, what did I say? I'm like, his ult's only been seen once, and that was the second time which he hits the 3-man and the 4-man falls to it. I thought this was bad. I thought this game was going to be over.
Quality or quantity? I definitely like to see quality, and this is what we're talking about. Check that flash out to get over the wall. Immaculate angle. And the dives in afterwards, Sterax even keeps him safe throughout the entire engagement. Yeah, that was great coming out from Yuuki to actually get maximum charges and then to bust him back into 2 members.
Oh, Garvey. Nice start. Good finish there by Yuuki. Kramer involved too. A third item on the way here for the Tristana, and LGD still in this game 1. 5k gold lead now, mitigated, and the best part is that that inhibitor is up.
Yeah, holding on by a thread. Bot lane is no longer being shoved in. LGD can now finally get control over the waves because Kramer's getting to the point where his Q can one-shot waves. This is looking up for LGD, however, it is still a WE-dominated game.
It still is, but of course 3 items now on the Sivir. Sterak's gauge you mentioned before with the
packages here.
Yeah, PYL might be called out. The shield, the stand behind me. WE sitting in the mid lane, and they've got a gangplank bottom side, so LGD still getting routed. They need another big fight, another big cast, and Vanguard's edge.
But the thing that won LGD the last fight, Hysterics, was the fact that they just went in. Everybody was 100% HP, and they just went 100 to 0. The thing that they cannot stand around for is poke, because you've got a Caitlyn with a rapid fire cannon, and you've got Corki with his ultimate. Both of those 2 things are going to chip you down, so it's either you fight now or you don't.
A lot of gap close here on LGD. The ability to make it as WE heading towards Baron. Vision is clearing out, and there's only a couple of wards in the pit that WE will have to deal with, and LGD should be completely blind.
More importantly, they're looking for key picks. WE cannot go for the Baron unless they get 1 member down. And this is not the best way to look for a beishang. We're not checking up on you.
Just waiting
The
for
point
someone.
is, they need to, of course, set down key traps, and I mean literal traps coming out from Mystic, and then just kill 1 key damage dealer.
I like the positioning of waves though here from WE. Once again, the top side is set up into the Tristana. Mystic sits mid, gangplank towards the bottom side. And the fact is, LGD still holding on. So wave clear coming in handy at this point. We're getting towards that later game where, you know, no rhyme or reason, LGD should be able to pull us back.
Yeah, great distribution. If they go back towards it, I like actually seeing post down into the bottom side. Not the greatest turret taker, but with the Trinity Force, we'll be able to do a lot of chip every now and then whenever it's off cooldown. So you like to see WE doing this. You like to see them pushing forward, but the one Hail Mary that they are always looking forward to is that 1 pick, because unless they get it down onto LGD when they lost the last team fight, they cannot ever turn their eyes towards the Baron, and that is always going to be the thorn in their side.
God, I just see a BT in the inventory of Mystic now though. 4 items on the Caitlyn. 3 on the Corki. Fun fact, there's a rapid fire third, which has been pretty much the common go-to. WE still sitting mad, looking for a pick. PYL backing in a very precarious position. The ult's going to be dropped on down. The Glacial Fissure only hits 1 as the Cannon Rush comes through as well. beishang not tanky enough. Gets destroyed by Garvey, but Mystic is firing away. Gets 2 crits in a row. That's the Caitlyn that haunts your solo queue game.
Of course, double seal items and also the eye edge. That is how much that Caitlyn hurts. And more importantly to the fact, that was all instigated by beishang actually stepping way too far forward. Didn't know how many members LGD had there. Dies, however, just because Caitlyn's so fed, does the damage.
Well, Garvey going down as well. Uses the ult, but to no success. It's going to be a push in for the inhibitor. LGD still looking to defend, but look at Mystic. Pushes up so hard with this BT in hand. Still hitting away the inhibitor.
BT
LGD
being the key item, they are definitely healing.
1243 crit. Watch this. Mystic walking forward still. Takes a bit from that, but wants to auto once again. The confidence there for WE as they look for their second inhibitor.
Yeah, frontline Caitlyn, but they need to be careful.
I don't think PYL should stand on trap even with Unbreakable up. Caitlyn does it again. PYL at 1/3.
Kramer does not have ultimate, so they cannot chase this if it goes badly for WE.
And Missing pops into the base. Okay, Yuuki gonna head on forward.
It's a Tristan. At this point, you've always seen Yuuki dash forward. It's nothing to be surprised about, but the fact that they actually get repelled from getting that bottom inhibitor after they managed to get that mid one is a little bit of a surprise because it was the same setup.
No, but they found Party Man through the mid lane. Garvey doesn't expect it. He's walking back. He's going, what's going on? 4 versus 4 now in the mid, and the GP comes in for the flank. Look at this one.
Boy.
Barrel doesn't connect, but now he can just auto away. Gangplank parlay at the ready. As Post comes through the back, the cannon barrage up in time. Mystic walks forward. Garvey has no choice. He goes, do I go in now or later? LGD still got 4 members alive, but WE are unrelenting.
More importantly, they just want to go towards the Baron Hysterics. Take a look. Bademan is dead. Next 15 seconds, no smite available. So WE, they want to rush this.
I love how Mystic didn't get in. Mystic is like, I'm going. Get in now or never. And Mystic has to walk his way over, and the jungler's not nearby, so let's wait for this.
Yep, beishang is here though, and it is a 4v5.
Post sitting in the brush. PYL puts up the door once again. 5 members in the pit, as you mentioned. Kramer walking through. PYL gets poked down. Baron gets secured, and now for WE, they want to end the game. Mystic hits PYL once, twice. The fire of the cannon sets up once again as WE get the Baron. Do they want to keep fighting?
Oh, Garvey's looking on the side. He wants to stop these backs Hysterics.
Well, not for now. This is going to be the disengage. LGD losing the Baron. And you said it before, WE never really lost control of this game. LGD just kept inching closer to the front.
And I'm actually going to give a huge shout out to that Scuttlecrab back there because it actually enabled Mystic to get some extra Runan shots down onto LGD to disengage from them re-engaging after the Baron. So it might have actually saved their lives if they got the poke down afterwards.
Shout out to Gary the Scuttlecrab. That's a big achievement to hold up in this time of the game. There's another dragon here, double ocean, not going to be too much, but we're at 30-minute point, so you know what that means. Let's go again into another Elder.
However, this is going to be very difficult for LGD now. They don't have a lot of wave clear. Of course, Sivir can always go through the Baron minions, but take a look at WE. They are now distributing correctly. They're moving towards the top side, but Yuuki is watching this with Bademan.
This is a Youmuu's Ghostblade Gangplank, so they have to play this right, otherwise he will one-shot them.
Yeah, not too sure about this.
Yeah, okay. Yuuki caught out. Look at Bademan. He's like, I have to get out.
He knew it before it even started, Hysterics. Vision was down to the top side. They knew it was 2v1. Wanted to bait down Post, got baited instead.
I mean, that could just be the game at this point. 40 seconds of a death timer.
Yep.
And LGD have to 5 versus 4 as WE run into the base.
Wave clear is just not enough from LGD. Everything is being destroyed. And more importantly, Mystic is so healthy.
Just runs on forward. Zeke's convergence here for the Time Kench alongside the Righteous Glory. xiye walks into the backside. And Nexus turrets at the ready as Buddyman flashes in. The beishang walks to help him out. But while that goes on, Mystic and Post start firing away. They're looking for the fight instead. Mystic gets low. Garvey jumps on him. Time Kench saves his life. And Mystic heals back up. Thank you, BT. And thank you, WE. As LGD back to the fountain, they'll get sent. Yuuki comes back alive, but just end it. It's done. It's a game 1 win from WE.
Very well done. They knew their win condition, played through the Caitlyn, and everything else will fall into place. Eventually, their mid lane got into power. Eventually, even the Gangplank came online. You saw it was going to be a collapse down onto him, but he was more than happy to actually 1v2 before his team reached them. It was so well played from WE, and LGD turned towards them. You have to say, where exactly is the priority? Obviously, both of those two teams wanted to give resources to the AD carry. One of them to both be wave clear proficient, so they can stall out the game as long as they could. Just didn't work out.
Cheeky devil in the audience there, but a game 1 that I think there's a lot to look at, a lot to break down. LGD had their way with one of the fights, but from that 8-minute mark, WE took control and never really let it go.
Look, it was a great base defense from LGD when they got the initial fight that got themselves some kills down onto WE. I like to see that pulling of the trigger, of course. As soon as you know that your opponents are standing way too far ahead, bust them into a bad direction with the Gangplank ulti and then all in them. Another thing that we have to say for LGD, Garvey had an amazing early game. You cannot take that away from him, but they just did not use that strength throughout the rest. I'd like to see him continue to lane against Post, continue to get solo kills, or at least CS advantages, and then carry the game from mid-game.
I think Garvey had an amazing 10 minutes, and from there it was just like, all right, well, Post is back in, cannon barrage at the ready, and And when you have yourself a Tahm Kench and a Caitlyn, and you got a Gangplank topside, you know what the condition is. It's bot side set up there for WE, and they played it so well through the laning.
That was it, and it was largely irrelevant, the priorities of the two top laners in terms of the 1v1. We never actually got to see them 1v1 after the initial laning phase when Garvey got the 2 kills, because Post was always off on the side. His ultimates had a lot of impact. He himself, doesn't even matter if he has a large impact or not, because it was all the Mystic Show from get-go.
Well, beishang as well, insinuating there. So a good early game, I will say, from Bartyman as well. First 10 minutes was very hyperactive, but beishang kept up in farm, kept ahead, had a level lead the majority of that game too. That was a game that I think WE look back on and go, all right, cool, let's shore up what our condition is from minute 1. And let's look at how LGD want to play this one.
Exactly, because LGD, they did draft towards WE's strong points. Of course, you see the Caitlyn, so you're like, great, let's wave clear that. Let's make sure that she's actually disabled so she can't get that early game advantage for herself. Didn't work out. And then they put Kramer onto the other side because they said, we need our ADC to get some resources.
That's very common, right?
Yeah.
So in LPL, we know that, you know, top side, you want to get out of that lane for sure. So that put the Sivir to the top side. I like that play, especially around Rift Herald when LGD are trying to break open the map.
But you're only looking at one part of the map, right? Because you say get Sivir onto the top side. Great, Sivir now gets farm. What happened to Garvey? He lost his laning phase.
But he almost won
that.
He almost won that 1v2. I would
did.
have taken that. You get 2 solo, you get 2 kills in your top lane. Hell yeah, you're going for the 1v2.
I mean, could have is not happened, right? It didn't ultimately happen. And Garvey only got those 2 kills. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see a different scenario in which Garvey actually got that lane to himself and actually got resources, because that Irelia was on track. And I'm looking at that mid game in specific when WE got a few of those 4v4s in the mid lane. If Garvey was fed, just think about 1 or 2 more kills onto that Irelia, could have gone completely differently.
Also came to the point where WE were just not letting them fight, where WE were out-rotating to the point of out-scaling, it felt like, as well. And it just went down as LGD falling back, getting slow to the rotations, and a lot of questionable moves there from LGD. Remember, newer roster that hasn't synergized together and doesn't feel like they're 100% on board.
Yeah, so going into game number 2, I'd like to see LGD actually just change up their calls and be flexible inside of the game. Because you never think, I want to give resources to the Irelia, but if you get a 2-0 Irelia, you start to say, okay, maybe this is the focus of our team. So if they can be adaptable and flexible in the early game, that will bring them success.
Especially after Garvey picked up that that fight that looked like LGD could come back in game 1. That the Tristana cleaned up, that Garvey got a 4-man Vanguard's Edge with a flawless duet mixed in there too. So I was impressed at some moments by Garvey. Also Yuuki and Tristana. I love the matchup. I love the Tristana into Corki because it seems very obvious. Although in the LPL now 0-3 doesn't always go as planned.
I'll say this though, PYL was doing PYL things. He always goes forward even though he knows that he can't. And in that fight that we were talking about along the top side where LGD actually won it, he was stepping way more forward than he needed to be. And everybody on WE actually respected him. When really they could have bursted him down. Even a Braum with shield still very squishy in that portion of the game. But because he stepped forward, he allowed the rest of his team to go forward. Of course, we're talking about Garvey as well. But yeah, it's all pretty much on the backs of the way that he played.
PYL like 0-6 in the end of that game.
Yeah.
So that's a game 1 to remember. We'll have a short break and then return with LGD and WE Game 2.